I am Jason from JZ's Photography. I'm going to talk to you about my favorite camera. Might surprise you. But first, I'm going to talk to you about my first camera. This here is a Nikon EM. So this camera is called Aperture Priority. You would actually it would have an automatic shutter speed. You would wind it. You would look through the viewfinder, and then you'd have this little line that would tell you your light. And what you would do is you adjust your aperture based on the light and get that little line right in the center, and then you'd push the button. So you couldn't adjust shutter speed, you could only adjust aperture. So it's aperture priority only. My mom let me use this camera. My brother was riding motocross at the time, and he wanted pictures of himself jumping some jumps out back at the field he used to ride at. So my mom gave me the camera, showed me how to load the film, showed me how to focus it, showed me how to take pictures, and then I went off. A 5-minute lesson. Piece of cake, right? I went out there, I took pictures of my brother on the motorcycle jumping. Every picture was in focus, every picture was centered. After we got developed, of course. I showed pictures of my mom. My mom said, "You're a better photographer than I am. The camera's yours." Cool. So I started shooting with this, and I had a lot of fun. But there were limitations to it. Well, I was working as a young man. I saved my money, and I bought myself this camera right here. The Nikon N6006 right here. This camera is beautiful. Now, it's not a Nikon FM2 if that's what you think. It was my favorite. I never owned one of those. It came with this lens right here, which was a 35 to 80, 1.4 to 5.6. And I really didn't have any other lenses. That's the lens I had with it. But this camera was amazing. And when I say amazing, it's going to be hard to describe it. So you had full functions on it, such as drive mode. You go manual, shutter priority, aperture priority, or P for priority. You could adjust your ISO level. Now, of course, back then, ISO, International Standard Organization, it didn't work the way ISO works now, where it increases energy to the sensor to bring in more light. No. It was a film rating, and you would get ISO usually from 100, 200. If you're shooting sports, you would go with a 400 or 800 or low light. And the interesting thing about it was the higher the ISO, the more grainy the photos would turn out. You could shoot sports with ISO 100 if you had great lighting. But if you had low lighting or any type of, you weren't as good with the camera, you'd want to shoot, they'd always mark it as 400 and 800 was for sports photography. I also used to shoot with Agfa 25 speed black and white film. Loved that film. Had great saturated blacks. It wasn't gray like the Ilford, but the Ilford black and white was great because you didn't have to send it to a special lab to be hand developed. It could be developed through a regular machine. But the Agfa 25, no, you actually had to send that out, or you had to have a place who could actually do it in-house to develop it. But I had some wonderful pictures from that. But this camera also, you could do regular picture. So you just hold picture down, and it would take a picture. It would adjust it. Now that was on, let's see, where are my glasses at here? I can't see anymore, so I have to use glasses. But just to give you an idea, okay, so that was on aperture priority. So you hold the mode button down just like you would on a normal camera, adjust it. So if I adjust it manual and f4.5, and I adjust it, say, to 60th of a second, and the joke is 1/60th f8, right? You'd adjust your aperture ring. There's you had to adjust the ring on this one, right? When you were in any other mode but manual though, you had to put the lock on it. You start F22 and put the lock on it, just like current lenses. However, this one of course is motor driven. So you adjust it, and if you're just shooting, f8 daylight, moderate sunlight, you would shoot f8 60th of a second. You have more light out, you'd adjust it. But you had a meter inside that would tell you if there's too much light, and you'd adjust either your aperture or your shutter speed. So you could see everything right through a lens. There was no looking on the back. You did it all in here. And I don't know if this camera can see that. I'm going to try, see if you can look through it with a camera lens. But to give you an idea, 1/60th of a second, f8, that's one picture. Now, if I put on drive, check this out. Continuous low. Listen to this. Hold down. Not bad, right? Now check this out. Continuous high. Listen to this baby go. Let me tell you what, that was fast back in the day. Now, does it compare to today's cameras that shoot 20 plus frames a second? No, that's video, for crying out loud. Cameras are the digital, not only the DSLRs, but the new mirrorless cameras are not SLRs, because this is an SLR, single lens reflex, which means, to give you an idea, what is a single lens reflex? Well, when you take off, when you're looking through this, like you see it right now, you see that lens there? When you push that button, that mirror flies up. And then if I open up the back here, well, let me slow it down so you can see me now, okay? So let's go ahead and slow that down to 1 second. I'm going to look through this here. You're looking through. You see, you see me in there, right? Now I'm going to push the button here. Did you see me through there? Let's try that again. You see my reflection right there? There you go. How about that? So the lens was open for 1 second. Now, you notice how the back of this stays open? Well, the little clip here busted. But let me tell you what's cool about this camera, right? You put the film in. All you do is put the film in. You roll it over to this little notch here, and then put it right on the tab. Once it's on the tab, all you did was close it, and then you would hold down the button for basically 1 second, and it would load the film for you automatically, which is really cool, right? Then you're ready to shoot. And you always knew you had film in it. You see that little window right there? That little window told you what kind of film you had and the speed of the film. The old cameras, like this one, you see that little piece on the back? You would take the back of the film, the box of the film it came in, you rip off that back spot, which told you the type of film and the speed of the film and number of exposures, and slide it in here. Well, with this camera here, all that information was right there in the window. You could see it, so you knew what kind of film you had, how many exposures, and the speed. And your camera told you how many exposures you took. Now, most of the time, I would get anywhere from 24 to 36 exposure. Which 36 exposures, you're thinking, that's not very much by today's standards. Well, of course not. Not when you have an SD card that can take thousands of photos. That's nothing. The difference was you took your time. This camera also, you see a little screw right there, a little thread on the shutter release. That was for a manual shutter release, so you actually pushed the plunger and it took the picture. So if your camera's on a tripod, when I do long exposures of the stars or did night photography, you didn't want to push it because you'd shake the camera. So you'd use the release. Now new cameras, you can download an app for your phone and control the shutter with your hand. This camera also came with a pop-up flash. The flash did work pretty good. However, you didn't recommend using the flash much. Although there's a capacitor built in, it didn't drain the battery fast. This battery is a 6-volt battery, and this battery would last years. kid you not, years. In fact, you could leave this camera on in the on position for a long time and it would not drain the battery. I mean, I remember it being in my bag for months and being on, and the battery never drained. It only drained when you're actually using it because it's driving a motor if you use a flash. But I hardly ever use this flash. I always had an external flash that went up on top. This camera, I can't tell you how many pictures I took this camera, but I can tell you when I was in the Coast Guard going through Baltops and we were in Europe, we were in there for I think 17 different countries, something like 15 different ports. 36 rolls of film between this camera and this camera. I probably only took about 5 rolls of film with this camera. This one probably took the other 31 rolls of film. Like I said, they're either 24 or 36 exposure. And a lot of times when I was in country, there'd be a 1 hour photo. I'd drop my film off right there, get developed, and go back and pick it up. So yes, this Nikon 6006 was my favorite camera. I shot with this thing for years. And you know, honestly, if the back still worked, I might consider putting film in it and shooting with it just for old time's sake. I love this camera. A decent weight, fast, rugged. It's taken many falls, and it still works great. After this, I got the D70. Was my first digital camera, and they eventually moved up to the D200, which I love. That thing as a workhorse. And then upgraded to D300, which took the same battery as D200 and the same battery grip, and then D300S, and then the D700 now, which I shoot, which is also full frame. The great thing about all those cameras, they all take the same battery. Well, the D70 would take the ladder batteries from the D200, 300, but the D70 battery would not work in those. So basically, I have like 8 of those batteries that are interchangeable with the 200, the 300, 300S, and 700, as well as a battery grip on the 200 to 700. So one thing I always loved about Nikon is the cameras. If you can work one Nikon, you can work most of them. In fact, what's unique about this is you see how it's designed right there. My current cameras are pretty much the same way. My DSLRs, digital SLRs, are just like this, which is great. Nikon lenses still move the same way. Left zooms out, right zooms in. Canon's backwards. The other thing too is I can put this lens on my D700 because it's a full frame lens, and it will work on my D700 because it has a motor driver in it. It will actually drive this lens. Pretty amazing. I still have a lens from 1977 I will use on my DSLRs. Why? Because it's a good lens, a 20mm lens. Amazing. So yeah, so I'm Jason. This was my favorite camera I ever had. I love my digital SLRs. You can't beat them. They're tough, they're rugged. I'm a better photographer now than I was back then. But the memories I had with this camera, going through Europe and traveling, is absolutely just amazing. Hey, I'm going to see real quick if you can actually see inside this thing with this. Let's see if you can actually see. You see that right there? The M, the 1 second, you can adjust. So right there I can adjust the time. So that's 2/50th of a second right there. I want to adjust the aperture. I can adjust the aperture. See that there? To let more light in. Adjust. Alright, look at that, huh? So you do all the adjustments inside. You can adjust the ISO, but you would not see the ISO in there. And the reason why is because you would never adjust the ISO while you're shooting. The ISO is adjusted when you put your film in. So, pretty cool, right? So, I'm Jason. This is my Nikon N6006. My favorite camera. Probably. Continuous high. What a beautiful sound. I love that sound. Hey, thanks for watching my video. God bless.